Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Poste Italiane, which is the Italian postal service. And who am I? I'm Davide Pellegatta, and I'm an architect at Spindox. I think that it's really important when we are talking about those kind of systems to make a step back and think about what we are talking about when we are talking about engagement, interactions, and so on. Because in my opinion, in our opinion, is a key point and also a very important design factor when you are developing systems that must address those kind of problems. So here an example, and can you imagine using Google and getting an experience like that? I guess Google wouldn't get that famous if they make such a sloppy service. So people, what are expecting? They are expecting quick interaction, no waiting time at all. They don't like to get stuck, especially when we are talking about services that are for daily life, like a bank account. And they are expecting experiences customized for their needs. So people nowadays are used to do things quickly. I guess this model can exemplify what users are expecting. I mean, people are looking for a profile, getting their piece of data, getting through the next interaction because maybe they are not really happy with that profile, getting another tree and another and another. That's how it works. And maybe they can find what they want. So from another perspective, it's really important not just seeing this thing from the user perspective, but also from the perspective of the companies that are developing those services. I mean, from the user perspective, they just may change service. They can just get another timber. Whatever I say is getting wrong at this point. But from the company's perspective is that if you are not developing services that are engaging users, those users are just passing to another one, and you are creating blank spots on the market that somebody else can pick up. And so that's something that we want to avoid. So another matter is throughput. I mean, if we are really successful, our users will use our service. And so while one profile will look up for their match, another one and another one will do the same. And for all those users, we want to provide them the best interaction possible, and so on. So maybe our user, they can find their true love. So passing to a real-world use case. Actually, also the first one was real. I want to talk to you about Poste Italiane. As we said before, Poste Italiane is the former public postal services, and they are delivering services about mail and parcel delivery and financial services. And where our work as Spindox was focused was exactly on the financial services, on their home banking. During the years, as many companies, Poste Italiane created a lot of services, but some of them are definitely not keeping up with the new challenges that there are out there. Especially, again, if you are seeing it from the customer perspective. Those services, they are not adapted to welcome their needs. So the home banking message board is one of those systems inside their home banking. And it's funny to think about that because this service is delivering financial transaction status, reminders, marketing communication from Poste Italiane, and it's based on IMAP servers. If you think it's funny that postal service is using an email server for doing that. But it was really, really efficient. I mean, it's a system that is pretty vertical over this use case, and it's pretty good if you think that it has been developed 15 years ago. So it was a very good design according to that time. And it's addressing every single problem you can have with the delivering of messages. So you have persistence, search, ingestion, everything. So at that time, it was perfect. The problem with this system, and it's not useless to say, is that this service is not keeping up with time, nowadays time. And most of all, it can't address any other use case. So whatever comes up from the marketing section of Poste Italiane can't be addressed at all. It's the marketing that has to adapt to the product, which is not good. You will hear them screaming all the time. The other thing is that this system can't scale at all. I mean, it just has a vertical scaling model. So after a while, it's creating bottlenecks. When the users are getting to the service altogether, the server can just provide 400 operations per second, which is not bad, but definitely not enough, especially if we are talking about the numbers we listened today in the other speech, and also hopefully for Poste later on. And the other thing is that this system is so old that its end-of-life terms are expiring, so nobody is supporting Poste Italiane maintaining this system. So what we did for them? Couchbase, of course. So, and now it's really important. This is the project roadmap of what we did with them. And it's important, and it connects, it fits really well with the user interaction model. The user interaction model it focuses on just selecting the data that you need. And for doing so, you really need to know what you are doing. It's easy to say, but it's exactly like that. So the first thing was analyzing what they have, how this application was working, and where, and most important, where this application was failing, where the actual bottleneck was. And second thing is, based on this analysis, creating a new data model, and then, of course, performances test. You have to demonstrate that the system is actually working, and it's plenty of space for doing more stuff to make the marketing happy. So, interactions. Interaction can be seen as access pattern, in my opinion. That means that you can see what people are doing. Here, a mockup. I deliberately choose to make a mockup so we can focus directly on the data. And it's about how marketing is expecting a user experience a little bit more beautiful than that. So I'll go back. Here we have a home page, and this is the point where the actual bottleneck was. There is this summary of messages, the latest messages that the users got, and a summary of how much messages they have, how much they have read, and so on. And then there is a list of whole messages that you can scroll, go over. It depends on the user interaction that you prefer. And then you get to the actual message that you want to read, maybe your latest transaction. You can access the final data, the message, through different points, so from the home page and from the list. You can see this data, exactly as we were saying before, as interactions. Every interaction somehow hit the data store, hit the Couchbase cluster. And this is what we did for them, trying to understand how the system can be designed to get the best performance possible. So, talking about numbers, the system that Poste Italiane is managing is quite big, not big as some we have seen today, but in any case, quite important. They have about 12 million of users, and they have about 300 million of messages. The really important thing is that in this system, anyone is ever deleting anything. I mean, it's not like your email that you are going to the spam folder, deleting everything, and you're happy. Here, people want to keep their transaction forever, even if they don't read them. And that's exactly what people are doing, not reading them. But you have to keep them. So the numbers, these numbers will grow up pretty quickly in the next years. So, throughput, again. Throughput, it's an important thing because the old system was actually able to deliver the functionalities that the people needed. But it wasn't able to deliver at scale totally. So, how we got there? So we saw what was the analysis part, and now we see how we got to the result. An important thing to say is that we had to work with the quite tight requirements. You know, those guys were used to work with just 2 servers to deliver their service. So they were expecting using Couchbase just in a cluster of 4 nodes, that it's just the minimum if you want high availability and the possibility to make maintenance and so on. So we needed to adapt to these requirements strictly. So our choice was to go to a key value approach. Unfortunately, we couldn't use nickel, but what we needed to demonstrate them is that with this approach, there will be space in the future for using nickel and make use of more advanced functionalities that Couchbase is providing. So, starting from the consideration we saw before, and especially about the fact that nobody's deleting anything, we decided to split the data set into parts. A first part, it's about where the traffic, internet traffic, is hitting hard on the inbox bucket. And this bucket has an eviction policy, memory first eviction policy, is not deleting anything. So everything is in memory, and you can get for your home page the result immediately. The other bucket is for the messages, and considering that nobody is ever reading those messages, it's somehow expandable. I mean, we don't need to use as much RAM as the document that we have. So we decided to dedicate this bucket for a full eviction policy, so that we could stay inside those requirements. Okay, the fact is that at this point we had to build this user interaction based on those considerations. So the fact is that if you have just a key value approach, you need exactly what you need to retrieve. So you have to decide how to create your keys for your documents so that you can programmatically retrieve them, those documents, through the keys. And, or you can embed those keys inside other documents so that you can navigate through the result. The actual result is the message, of course. Since on the home page there was also a shortcut to the messages, the latest messages, we had to add this kind of shortcut that was leading directly from the home page to the message document. Another thing is that we said that the number of messages is increasing over the time, so we couldn't embed them, all the key references, on a single document, because otherwise it's not efficient at all. So you can see these messages as a huge stack, a huge paper stack of messages that is accumulating over the time, and you have to divide it. And provide for each division a reference to the next little stack so that you can navigate. And we managed to add to the user document, which is the main document that is representing a user, kind of cursor to get in order to navigate or from the beginning or from the end. Even if you don't have an advanced search system, you can actually have a pretty good user experience. So the other thing was keys. Naming convention, when you have programmatically access keys and documents, is to create a naming convention so that your application that is managing the user interface can get exactly what it wants. In our case, we decided to provide, to prepend a kind of document identifier. Then we had a domain, because the message board is not just served for B2C, but they are using the same system for internal purpose, for the employees, also for business services. So you have to separate the domains. The other thing is that you need a user identifier. And in our case, it's the email account name, so name.surname, and so on. And that the idea of it was that it's really easy when it will come the time to migrate the old services to the new ones. And all the old services can use the new one in the exactly same way. So when they will have to deliver a message to the message board, they will just type an email and send it. The other thing is about extra data. If you have those slices of messages, you need where they are, and you need to know at which point they are. So even without knowing anything, but just the user, you can access those slices and get to the first, and then to the second and the third, and so on. And that is just one interaction, it's not two. And if you are thinking at scale, it's really important that you keep those interaction with the Couchbase cluster really small. And at the end, there are extra data about the messages themselves. So you have a delivery date and a UID. And those have been added for future purposes, so that you can use the keys to be created by Nickel without going into the document. Okay, another thing, and that was for our project a really turning point, was the sub-document APIs. When you are gathering informations, most of the time you don't need all of them. You just need a little piece of data. And if you are accessing just a little piece of data, you are, what can I say? Just not creating traffic over the network. We made this POC over quite a sloppy network, and on a public cloud that I won't say. And since we, at the beginning, were gathering the whole documents, we couldn't get to great performances. We had our testing server, our cluster made of 4 servers, And we got really good performances, but not the best. So, in other terms, what we got? Considering the hardware, we got pretty good performances. We could achieve like 400,000 operations per second, simulating a typical workload, which is 90% get, and the rest insert and updates on the system. And the really important thing is that we managed to do this just with one test server. And while this test server was at full capacity, like 99% load average, the Couchbase cluster was just at 20% CPU. So unfortunately, we couldn't push to its limit, but considering the numbers, we are pretty confident that we could get about 1 million or more. In other terms, and again, throughput, from Poste perspective, and that was really important for us to demonstrate it to them, is that in 3 seconds, we could make what they are doing in 1 hour. That means that those guys can do a lot of stuff more when they will put that in production and not just thinking about delivering messages that nobody reads. So, conclusions. So, fast interactions. Fast interactions are the key point for making really immersive user experience like Timber. And they are really important for making engaging systems that people will love and use. And throughput, as a part of an engaging system, it's important where you are successful and things are going very well. So that's all. Thank you. And questions? Thank you very much.
David, thank you. Thank you.